Okay, guys, believe it or not, but we are back. And this one is actually another new moon, of course, but we also will be having an eclipse season again. This is probably my third episode about eclipses. Like this happened a few times throughout the year, March. So if you guys remember, that was my new moon Aquarius. Um, Again, that one was dealing with the nodes. So at this point, the nodes are moving into Leo. I'm sorry, moving into Pisces and Virgo. But before they were in Aquarius, Leo. So this is just very interesting because I know this could be a lot of information taken at once, but this just kind of how it is in astrology. But the best thing to do is just follow along. That's why I'm also doing videos. So this will be another interesting episode because you can actually follow along. So yeah, here we are. And this is basically going to happen on August 12th. 2026, and this is Eastern time. Again, I'm in the eastern part of the United States, so that's usually where I base my charts at. I'm using Astrological at the moment. It's possible you could see another one that I'll use. I'll just mention the name is Chani app. They also have a website and a podcast that they do monthly updates on astrology as well. I do recommend checking the information out because it's useful. So here we do have the sun and the moon at 20 degrees of Leo. And then we also have the nodes at 0 degrees. Another interesting point here that you can see in the chart is Mars 0 degrees Cancer. I'm just going to say that is very interesting because technically we did have Jupiter in this area for a good while. Usually it's been about 2 years in a sign. But right now, as you can see on this chart, Jupiter is at Leo, 9 degrees, with Mercury, and of course with the moon area. I would say that's pretty interesting because the fact that Jupiter was exalted in Cancer, and it is a ruler of Pisces, and of course Sagittarius as well. This area that you see here is called Dark Moon Lilith. That's what they call it. It deals with a little bit, probably more of the emotional, mental side of things. Sometimes people would often connect it to your personal feelings, maybe even sexuality. So just depends how you use it for its own individual meaning. But there's just a lot of fire in the chart, as you can see in the red, that Astrological provides. And of course, you do have that Saturn, Neptune area in Aries. So basically, it clearly trines to a lot of this information that is in Leo. So that will involve a little more expansion because that's what Jupiter provides. And then the communication here with the Mercury. And then, the sun and the moon is basically luminaries. It's, yeah, a big pack full. Things are happening. Big pack full energy is on the way. I would see this as a more positive thing, despite a lot of the information that people tend to say about, areas of war and things of that nature. But besides that, we do have a big world out there. A lot of minds are thinking about things. And then, of course, if you think about here, which is Pluto in Aquarius, which is actually retrograde, we are still going over a lot of things for people in a voice because this is fixed energy. This area here, too, with Leo is a fixed fire energy. So instead of just the cardinal part, that's in much more outer planets. So that energy is a little further away. And people often say, it doesn't impact us as much, but I think in a mental sense, it's going to always be relevant in there. But the energy that probably will be more connected to us is, of course, going to be the Leo energy because that deals with the heart. So this is probably an area that you just probably want to look at in your own charts of where Leo is because this will also, again, be an eclipse area. So I'm going to be showing two different screens that you will see. The first one is obviously the moon. So as you can see, 20 degrees of Leo is pretty important here. For me, of course, this is considered my ascendant in Western astrology. So yes, it'll be pretty impactful on the way I decide to use it and anyone else that's a Leo rising, depending on the degrees, of course. It could be very interesting for a person. Of course, you have Mars that's in Cancer, so it's going to probably take a month or so, a few weeks up ahead before it goes into Leo itself. So once Mars go there, it'll just be a further impact or information on, a person's, image, maybe. Of course, it could be anything, of course, um, good things, bad things, all that stuff is existing. But teaching is probably a big one here. Your intention is probably pretty impactful here, and maybe health, of course. If you've done all the work, it could be highlighted. The thing I like about this solar eclipse that we see, again, that's usually during a new moon when the sun and moon meets up. And of course, it has to be connected close to the node in order for it to eclipse, which you can see in both charts because that's why I'm doing visual episodes now. This is my second visual episode, so thank you guys for bearing with me. And if you look at this one, the thing I do like about it, instead of some of the previous ones on the new moon chart I have, this solar eclipse one actually shows you some images of shapes. So a square, as we said before, in other episodes, you can see the square image. It's usually against another fellow fixed type of sign. So right here you have Taurus, which is fixed earth, and you have Leo, which is fixed fire. That makes a square, and squares are usually dynamics. Sometimes they tend to be negative, but it can also bring out the positive because you realize that there's two different types of energies. And again, here in Scorpio, we do have another square. So if you look at your own chart, you will see where these squares are. Next one you can see here is a triangle, which is also significant to a trine, which is usually more on a, I don't know, connective side, on a positive way, because if you think about, we have Sagittarius, and remember I already went over that moon Lilith, or dark moon Lilith, that's what they call it. So that would trine to, another fire sign, because those are same elements. And then we also have the Aries energy, which makes a trine here. So it could be pretty positive. It could be a gathering. And then also you want to just think about your intentions because, that can, obviously be a fire type of thing, whether it's your voice or actual manifestation of a fire. And it could be very rising in something new because that's a lot of the energy with Aries. And then Leo is just more of playing out that energy. So definitely something you want to keep in mind. And then this little thing here, it looks kind of like a, I don't know what you want to call this, but it's usually like our own keys that we use, but it's known as a sextile. Um, Basically something that also influences the other traditional signs. So right here, it's just showing that, of course, you have a sign of Mercury. I think that's where you go. I'm so sorry for not having all this information correctly, but I learned a lot on my own. Yeah, you would have this sign of Mercury, which rules Gemini, and that would just clearly be making a sextile to Uranus that's in Gemini. So basically, they're both 5 degrees. It depends. I think it's within like 60 degrees or so of each sign. It makes a sextile at positively influence a lot of the energy that Mercury might need because, of course, it's pretty close to being to the sun and then, of course, Jupiter. So you have like two dynamics, which is Jupiter at the beginning of Leo, getting comfortable because I think it's such a joyful sign, artful sign after being in Cancer. So I think Jupiter is just a little bit more expressive here and very honed in on its ways. And the sun is just in a fellow fire sign. It's very positive for both of these celestial bodies and any energy that we'll be looking at. I would say for now, that is pretty much. Oh yeah, also this area here, which looks like two circles in a line, that is called a in conjunction, which is kind of like the opposite sign of a very important area. For example, Leo and Aquarius. They are opposite signs of each other. So that's when you'll see these circles in a line here, which is in conjunction, and then kind of close to the square. But the square is usually again like another fixed sign, and in conjunction is the opposite sign of the other sign. So pretty important chart for you to look at and just kind of learn the information. I'll stop sharing the solar eclipse because we've been over so many eclipses already. It's okay if you don't focus on this one. All right, so we're back on the new moon chart. This episode will be probably interesting because, of course, we're just going into a lot of video representation, other areas that you might want to consider or think about and see. There's a lot of this stuff is at this point easy to follow along, based on a lot of stuff that I already taught you guys in the past. So you have Venus, which is in Libra. So that can be good for understanding your money because Venus rules Libra. And also a little bit more on that justice side for sure. Very cool to look at because very interesting that Venus makes a trine basically with Gemini. So those are both air signs as well as Pluto. So yeah, it's a lot of like-minded energy, future building. Luck is probably also connected to this chart. And of course, the eclipse. So I do recommend looking at this one and then finding out what your rising is, any of the 12 signs that's available, plus your moon sign. That's probably a good one too, because it's a new moon. And your sun sign could be probably a little bit more interesting to look at and think about because it clearly would determine maybe where you might want to think about as far as, you know, your own zodiac sign, because it's just a new moon and also it's a solar eclipse. So whether you are a Leo, just gotta say happy birthday. I think the future is clearly bright, as you can see in this chart. Yeah, I recorded this episode in March, so this is further out before this happens. But of course, I will be tuning in as much as possible. And of course, I just want to deliver these episodes to you guys so you can just have someone that is following along. It's just so interesting because, you know, the previous episodes are obviously from 2025 mostly. And then, of course, I decided to just cover the charts that I left out. And I didn't realize how dynamic these new moons would be, or these signs would be, of course, because for some reason I just skipped over them. So maybe it was good for me because it provides a challenge. And of course, it just provides you guys a chance to just follow along with so much of the information that is going to be available. I don't know, it's a mouthful. You know, for mostly everything that is pretty much very important. As I said, I like these charts that I've been going over. I didn't realize I would. Oh yeah, another thing to think about is I already mentioned retrograde, but you will have Pluto retrograde, you will have Neptune retrograde, you will have Saturn retrograde. And the nodes are usually retrograde off and on, so that's something to look at too. And the Chiron too, which is in Taurus. So that will be a bit of a difference than when it was in Aries, because we're getting a little bit more grounded to Earth. So instead of just that fire wounded healer, we got a little bit of an earth wounded healer. And looks like it'll be connected to the node. So that 0 degree is probably very interesting to look at. So all I have to say is thank you guys for listening. And I will have another episode, believe it or not. I'm sorry guys for having this little extra part here, but I may do one more episode of video, but we'll see how that goes. But it may be possible that it is the Virgo one, and that would be probably going into lunar eclipse versus the solar eclipse. So we'll see how that goes. Until next time, and thank you guys for listening. This episode was kind of interesting. It's kind of all over the place a little bit, but that's probably what you're gonna be seeing, like for real in our own lives. But whenever you are all over the place, the best thing is to hone on your priorities and I think that also may be something that you might want to think about when you look at this chart is your priorities. So instead of just being in confusion mode, you want to think about the important things that we just ultimately have to start thinking about and doing besides all of the little stuff. I know for me, I am clearly going into so much more of changes that I didn't realize in myself. But I'm also very blessed to be able to speak towards them. And yeah, and collaboration clearly as well is very important to think about in this chart because it's clear as day. Um, Leo, they usually say is more on the actor side, dramatics. And then Aries, fire is more of a direction cardinal. So that's the beginning. And then you want to think about the voices. So it's at a bigger, larger level and it's long lasting because you have Uranus, which is in Gemini, and then you have Pluto, which is in Aquarius. So that's people. So a lot of us probably are in like minded mode, but we also have to be very protective of our nature, which will probably lead into the Venus part because it's justice. So, yeah, it looks like the more we do to consider each other and, protect our world, our planet, it probably will lead to some amazing things ahead that we clearly need. Thank you so much for listening, and I will be back.